Βαντίμ Ρέπιν είναι απλά ο καλύτερος. Ο πιο τέλειος βιολονίστας που είχα ποτέ την ευκαιρία να ακούσω, έλεγε με ενθουσιασμό ο περίφημος μαέστρος Γεχούντι Με νουχίν για τον συναρπαστικό Ρέπιν, που το 1986 σε ηλικία μόλις 15 ετών εμφανίστηκε στο Carnegie Hall, έχοντας ήδη κάνει το τεπούτο του σε Τόκιο, Μόσχα και Ελσίνκι ένα χρόνο πριν. Ο ίδιος, έχοντας αναμετρηθεί με τις πιο απαιτητικές δημιουργίες και έχοντας αρρώσει τους πιο έγκυρους διαγωνισμούς του οργάνου του, αρκείται να συστήνεται ως ξεναγός στα μεγάλα έργα, διατυπώνοντας την επιθυμία αυτή η ξενάγηση να νίκει στις μαγικές.
When I was a small child, as I say, 6 years, 7 years old, there were, everything was only dreams. And when I was 8, I already tasted for the first time the feelings what you can get when you are performing on stage for the public, for audience. I think from that moment when I was hooked to this adrenaline and pleasure, up until today, it's still a wonder, and for me, every time on stage, it's a great joy. It's difficult to answer how hard you are for yourself. It's our life is very similar to the life of sportsmen and people of sport. The discipline is extremely important, and our physical way of producing sound is maybe not so much in cardio, but it is in unbelievable precision making, and of course because of this you get a lot of extra stress, especially performing concerto for public when you have only one chance, and every note must be where it should be, plus you must give an emotional side, plus you must be able to get wow effect yourself from the piece of music you're performing. I like to make a connection between profession of a musician, classical musician, who is interpreter, with a professional guide, for example. That, if you have a guide who is extremely interesting, who has his own views, who has his own favorite places, the excursion becomes an unbelievable time, because he may say, for example, wait a second, we will go behind the corner and you will see magic. So this is the same what we do with the pieces. We have our famous and our favorite beats. We have to create harmony and, of course, to share our view of the composer with the public. So I consider myself a guide. And each time I perform the same piece, for example, I went through this journey many times. And you try to find some extra interesting places, extra interesting corners. And of course, homework is specifically, it's like you read a book and you've read it, you have your impressions, but after 1 year, after 2 years, you cannot be so specific about this, and you start to read it again. And you notice a completely different picture. You notice some unbelievable emotional things that get to you while you're reading the book. So it is the same with us. The score that we take, music that composers left to us, it's like a book. It's like an unbelievable help in one way. On the other side, you kind of make it through your personality, your taste, your views, and it becomes an interpretation. And so there are many wonderful artists, and they have their own interpretation. And it is like reading the book, but read by different people, by different personalities. Well, the stage fright comes from the fact that at the concert you must perform and you have only one chance. You cannot say, oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, we go from beginning. It will not be a very successful concert, I promise. So this is, I think, the foundation of the stress that we get before going on stage. Of course, with the years you create ways of minimizing the side effects. But stress of its own, it's very difficult to control. And of course, the more you are on stage, the more often you perform live at the concerts, you gain the experience. You gain things how to cope with extra. Because one concert you perform and you feel so comfortable. I mean, nervous, but comfortable nervous. And sometimes something happens and you are so much extra nervous. So in this time, these thousands and thousands of concerts and those times that you have, it's like a school of life, school of musical life. It helps. But there is no one remedy or recipe how to get rid of the stress. It's actually a good thing because through stress you are more sensitive and you are more capable of delivering emotional side. Our language is international, so the music is the most universal international language one can imagine. And during rehearsal times, my goal every time I perform with the new orchestra or different orchestra, sometimes I come back to the same orchestra many times, and we already have this friendly familiarity with the key players of the orchestra. But I try not to hear them. I try also to have an eye communication. And because there are so many special places where, for example, a trumpet, we have now here, we are sitting in the brass section, trumpet or tuba, they have a main material that soloist is supposed to carry him, to give him like on the beautiful plate, you know, so that all the attention goes to him. And during rehearsal, somehow I try to finalize this little bit, you can call it maybe little dialogues with the key instrumentalists, that they know I'm paying all my attention to what they produce as a sound, and all attention, including concert hall public, is on him. And once he knows it, and he knows that we all support him, it will be a completely different solo. It will be much more free, much more passionate and interesting, and he will feel so important. And it is what music making is about. And it doesn't matter if you are with your piano player or if you play quartet, quintet, octet, chamber orchestra, symphony orchestra, huge symphony orchestra. For me, the technicality of connecting with the other musicians is absolutely the same. You create a dialogue and you create place, spot for different musicians depending, of course, on their musical ideas. If I perform tonight Tchaikovsky, that is my favorite piece. If I play Prokofiev or Brahms concerto or anything, Grieg, Mozart, those are my favorite composers and my favorite pieces because I'm delivering them to the audience. Tchaikovsky concerto is one of the most popular for the performance and for the public because it is so passionate, it is so virtuosic, it's so complete. It is really a journey. It's a musical journey to go through this concerto. And there is not 1 second that anybody can relax. And technically, it is extremely difficult. It's not difficult in the way of of making the architecture, but physically it is a marathon for violinists. So I consider technically this concerto probably the most difficult for the violin. Very difficult to answer this, to what can make me turn away from an invitation. Invitation is always pleasant. It means somebody is inviting you, somebody wants to see you, somebody wants to hear you. But there are many things regarding every engagement. You know, it's a friendship, for example. It's a very important point. Prestige, unbelievably important place. And it could be geographical, it could be personal, it could be musical prestige. Financial side of the performance, because musicians, we can only financially sustain if we are performing and getting paid for it. So all of this is quite important, but when there are two or three mixed up, you can forget the others, for example. But only for money, or only for something else, I don't know. Now, probably if there's only money, it's not interesting, but financially combined with friendship, with pleasure, with prestige, it's a great engagement. I've come to Greece quite a few times for the last 30 years, I think. I was very honored to be in this concert hall when the organ was built, and it was the opening concert for this occasion, and I remember it very well. There were other unforgettable trips, as for example, when there were Olympic Games. I was soloist with the London Symphony Orchestra on the opening connected to Olympic Games classical concerts. And also unforgettable, it was extremely fantastic atmosphere in Athens during the games. And I remember being in Saloniki, I was in different places, also performing with the orchestra or recitals. Greece is a very passionate country. Public is extremely warm and good-willing, you know, so my memories are fantastic. So I can't wait for the next. I'm on stage, really concertizing on stage, maybe from 12 years old. And so it means it is about 35 over years. And roughly my schedule was taking me always from 100 to 150, sometimes more concerts per year. So, yeah, mathematics. Being a conductor, it's not switching from one musical to another musical profession, something like from violin to viola, or I don't know, from oboe to clarinet. Conductor, it's a very serious job, and of course, for me to be comfortable with the violin, it took many years to know repertoire, to become not only comfortable, but when you are
confident.
Confidence, yes, the confidence came. So for being conductor, I think at least the same amount of time must be solely invested into new profession. And to be able to call yourself conductor, I don't think I may as yet, but I have years I may invest in this. But of course, with chamber orchestras, for example, is much easier because it's so natural. You know, a lot of music was born this way for the leader and a group of musicians that we perform. Most of the symphonies and classical symphonies are close to this. So it is in my head, and sometimes I just have to do it. And but again, before certain knowledge of symphonic repertoire, but knowledge, I mean knowledge really the way that we learn our repertoire, hour pieces that I can write down the score. I cannot say I'm a conductor. But I even conducted once with the violin the Grand Symphony Orchestra. It was emergency, but we've done it. Even Shostakovich concerto with 90 musicians symphony orchestra. It's like learning to swim. You know, if you're in a position that you either swim or you go down, one can find ways of doing things. Giving advices to young musicians is very difficult. So I'm always ready to share my knowledge of music, knowledge of violin playing, knowledge of, beating up the difficulties of our profession. But, to give an advice for success and for being famous and all this, it's very difficult. Every personal route is different, and from my side I prefer was to wish a good luck with your teacher, good luck with your family, good luck with people that you meet along your professional life. It is very important, and once lucky and you gain so much more experiences, so much more ideas, and you just grow up quicker. And so my wish and my answer to that question would be wishing you luck. And on the other hand, also for the question of popularity, one should always know the more simple, the more popular. The more complicated, less popular. It is always a joint way, because you need public to share your emotions as an artist. And public needs a wonderful musician to share them with you. So if one is not at the top level, the experience can be sideways. And that is also to the question sometimes I'm asked, what is the difference between audiences in different continents or different places? The answer is always, if you are able to create understanding with your public, because in the same city it could be, wow, today it seems like everyone at the concert hall came to listen to you, to take something from this concert. And sometimes in the same city it could be completely different public that came after dinner, to have a little bit entertainment. Both ways is great, but they're different. And for young musicians, trust your instinct and develop your taste. So because taste, what you're sharing with others. And if your taste is a little bit in the same line with the taste of your public or the taste of the listener, you're popular. But stay true to what you find the best and not what others find better. Of course, extremely lucky. I'm in a profession that gives me joy, happiness, and I have an incredible circle of my colleagues that we either play chamber music or just have a chat, or there are so many interesting people. And at the same time, yes, it's always unpredictable. You come to a new place, or you come to the places you've been many times, and this point of surprise is always there, point of what you are looking forward to. Sometimes you don't even know what to look for, but it's this incredible feeling when you are traveling and when you're coming to different beautiful and more beautiful, less beautiful places, but really incredible audience that, already in advance, after playing in the city for maybe 20, 40 times, more or less you can imagine. So what can you do to make it even happier or even better? With a new repertoire also, it's a sharing thing, and the dialogue between us musicians, but at the same time we have to deliver our understandings and dialogue with our public.